Hi everyone, my name is Nico Ruffato. Let me first show you the before and after. This image was taken freehand in Dolomites during a moment of heavy fog and unstable weather. At first glance, the original file almost looked wrong, flat, lifeless, with no contrast at all. But the problem is not the fog, the problem is the lack of tonal separation. In this tutorial, I show you how I build mood and depth in a very low contrast scene without destroying the atmosphere. If you like to follow along, you can download the raw file. You'll find the link in the description below. Before we begin, just a quick reminder. If you are using the TK9 panel, you can use the code NICO15 for 15% off the entire Tony Kuyper store, including Schambag Shows training and the new TK Grayscale plugin. You'll find the link in the description. But now, let's start. With foggy images, global contrast is dangerous. If we increase contrast everywhere, we immediately destroy the atmosphere. So instead to add contrast, I start by creating separation. But first, I start with the profile. I leave the Adobe profile here. I go on less correction. I enable profile correction and remove chromatic aberration. On detail, I put the amount to 0 and I go on the basic panel. Here I start to balance the exposure. I bring up the exposure like this, for example. Okay, how you can see, the Instagram is right on the center, but we have nothing about the contrast. I don't want to create this effect. I prefer work on the separate sliders in this way. So I can increase a little bit the highlights, the whites, but overall I bring down the shadow and the blacks in this way. Now I can move again the whites and highlights, so I have this effect. Okay, now I can use a little contrast in this way, not too much. All right, I bring up the texture a little, and why not the clarity in this way. Okay, now I go on color grading. In color grading, I can choose the highlights. I move the hue about here, okay, and I bring the saturation plus 7 before and after, just a subtle adjustment. And now I take the shadow. The shadow, I move the hue about here. Yes, I move the saturation just a little. So I have this before and after. Just a gently adjustment. In calibration tab, I go on blue, blue saturation plus 20 about. Okay, green, I move green hue about here. Okay, and red hue maybe -9. Okay, this is before and after. Again, a subtle adjustment. And we have the difference before and after of our image. And now we can go in edit in Photoshop 2026. At this stage, I'm not adding drama. I'm refining relationships between tones. Mood is built through separation, not contrast. I can use Photoshop for a precision work. This is where luminosity masks become very powerful. But I start removing some distraction, for example, there. For doing this, I take a lasso tool, for example, and I take this selection, I remove it with this tool. Yeah, this is a good work. Again, remove. In this case, we don't have a good result, so I can repeat I remove this level, I reselect and remove with AI. But again, we don't have a good work here before and after, so I want to erase this level again. And I try with the last chance with generative fill. Okay, I choose the Firefly version 3. Okay, generate, and now we see the result here. This is the result before, after. Yes, this is okay, in my opinion, quite okay. Shift click on this button. I move all the other level. I have this again. I can use, for example, this instrument removed with the eye of Photoshop. We can wait. Okay, I can remove other part of our image. So I can stop, for example, the video and we see after. Okay, I can put all this layer on a group in this way, and this is before and after. Before and after, much better. At this point, I want to create structure and depth in this image. For this, I use dodge and burn technique, helping with the luminosity masks. I start with a dodge layer. In this way, I gently dodge in the snow to emphasize the natural highlights. In this way, I can choose the highlights in this way, or I can use the zone masks. So I can sample this zone. This is perfect. I think it's okay. I load the selection of this mask and I sample this color and I put a little brighter and less saturation. Now with the flow 10%, I can click in some zone of our image where the light is interesting, for example, there. Okay, this is before and after. Maybe is too much, so I can use the opacity plus, a free plugin of Tony Kuyper's store. And now this is before and after. Okay, but I can use the rubber erase here with E of shortcuts for remove a little this part of the dodge. Okay, now it's okay. I can close the selection with this button, and now with a burn layer, I can emphasize this dark part of the image with the zone masks. Okay, I sampled there. Now I can select better these zones. Okay, I load the selection this way. I go to sample this color and I put darker and less saturation. Always with the flow 10%. I can click in this way, and this is before and after. Just perfect. I really like before and after. Okay, I close the selection, and this is the result before and after the dodging and burn technique. But now I want to remove this dark part of the image. I use the remove tool of Photoshop. Perfect. And these little spots there in this way. Perfect. Now the image is really clean. Okay, I create another burn level. I sample this color. I put in this way and really gently, always with 10% flow. I want to dark this part. Is quite a vignette, but not exactly a vignette. I put on 70% opacity, maybe 60% is perfect. Yeah, okay. Now I can use the new adjustment layers, clarity and DAs. In this case, I want to use the clarity, so I move on right the slider. This is before and after. The depth is really better now, but I want to apply only in this zone. For doing this, I create a black mask. I choose a gradient with the G key, and this gradient from white to black, and the ellipse in this way, for example. Yes, this is our result before and after. I can click there, and this is before and after. I really like. Now I want to emphasize this part of the image with the light. Again, I use the new adjustment clarity at DAs. In this case, I use DAs. I put on left in this way. Okay, this is before and after. Obviously, I want to apply only in this part. I create a black mask. Gradient again, same gradient from white to black, and the same tool, ellipse, and I create, for example, this. Okay, this is before and after. I click here for hide this shape, before and after, before and after. Yes, I really like. These are our new layer adjustment, clarity, and the haze. As a final step, I can crop the image. Obviously, is a personal choice. I use the crop tool, C in my keyboard. I choose as a ratio 60:9. I move the image in this way. I hold down the Shift key, and yes, with Enter, I really like now the image. And with that, the editing is complete. And let's take one last look at the before and after. Image like this don't shout, they whisper. The goal is not to make them louder, but to make them clearer. I hope this tutorial was useful and inspiring. If you enjoy this kind of workflow-based editing, consider to subscribing the channel. And if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave a comment. I love to hear how you approach image like this. You can also join my newsletter through my website to stay updated. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching, and I see you next one.